Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Sock Talks with Sean and Joy.
You
So
got
we're
right that
doing,
time.
I know it's kind of like, okay, what is it?
Uh, how are
So
you, Joy?
I'm good, Sean. How about you? Waiting
Good.
out
You got
the
you got to
hurricane
take
down.
see you're crushing the 10 card challenge. You're going to be number 2 by the end of tonight.
I
Going to
don't know.
catch Amberly.
I think they stopped. I think they stopped changing the numbers now. They're going to keep us all in suspense to the very end because I did have somebody else sign on today, and they're still not showing. So
Hmm.
they're my back office. But anyways, no. You know what? Like we talked about earlier. This what we're doing. This sock talks was what motivated me to go after go after as many people as I can on this. And I know, Sean, when you started out with this, your first couple of weeks, you were like, they nobody was telling anybody, but you really had to be topping the company for the amount of, 10
They
card
did not
challenge
include
you had,
the
and you were
second
going
half of
boom.
July. So
Yeah, yeah, you were just like in that. And then when you and I were talking, it was like, oh man, I gotta get my butt in gear. I said, Sean is like going to town and I'm not talking to enough people, kind of a thing. So, and then the company comes out with the challenge, and it was like really funny to
perfect.
kind of
Yep.
watch those, um, but I know for me, one of the things that was very helpful for me, I have a Facebook group, and I think most of us do have some kind of Facebook group out there. And it started out way back when Jordan did something. I can't remember what
Hmm.
it was. We all got these groups together, and then that kind of dissolved. And I kept my card kindness count with counts with cards of what mine was. And so that was mostly my customers, and I was feeding them into there. Well, then I worked with, talked to a media person, and it's like, okay, I have a page, I have a group, and I have my personal page. Give me some guidance here, So I've got some guidance on what I want to do with my group. So then I was like, I need to really like add people to this group or invite people to this group so they get. So one night I was sitting on the table out in the patio. Literally, it was like, oh yeah, Karen needs to go in there. Susan needs to go in there. The whole time I'm thinking of putting them in a group. At the same time, I had this like little sticky pad. It was only this. Oh, if I can find it, I'll show you. Only about this big. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, I need to invite them for the card challenge. I need to invite them for the card challenge. I ended up with 8 different papers with about 5 or 6 names on each one of them. Now it's now getting dark. So Mark's inside. He said, Joy, what are you doing out here in the dark? I'm just on a roll. I got to invite these
Right.
people.
Shh, leave me alone. Leave me alone.
So at that point, it was like every day I was inviting
Right.
like 10 or 15 people and that type of thing. And they all
Yep.
just
Yep.
kind of, and
And
of
it's
course,
important that, yes, we contact our past clients, but it's more important that we're looking forward and inviting new people because that's
absolutely.
going to be our lifeblood of our business. Now,
That's
some
exactly.
some with the card challenge, if they're a customer, they're just on a basic. Yeah, maybe that'll bring some back in, but going out, but you're doing it right. So yeah, you're crushing it. I
Yeah,
knew you
yeah. Well,
would.
thank you. Well, I will tell you, my a person I talked to today that reached out to me, say, "Hey, I want to reactivate my account." That's my third customer from that joined in 2013, Sean. 2013, all of them, all three
Yep,
of them were, it's like, okay, they're watching something, they're
yep,
doing
yep.
something, and they're trying to reactivate again, so anyways,
There
it's
was,
been
which leads us to I said one thing that we want to talk about, but and we had our BNI leadership training
mhm.
Monday, and they had a keynote speaker, and I don't know what his name was, but there were some good points, and I'll find it and post it. Um, but he talked about chasing people and that cycle,
Mhm.
and he did an example like, "Hey, I understand that you wanted XYZ," and the customer say, "Hey, can you do it in 3 hours?" No, it's like 3 or 4 days. Okay, no, I'm not interested. And then a week goes by, follow up and say, "Hey, do you still need that?" Yeah, can you do it in like an hour? No, I can't do it in an hour. No, never mind. And then another week goes by, and it was just chasing, and then like you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, yeah, I can do that in an hour, and there's no way I can do that in an hour. And
Mhm.
instead of putting yourself out there, and you're attracting people
Mhm.
by how
Mhm.
you carry yourself,
Right.
and your and he was an you know under promise and over deliver kind of guy.
Mhm.
But it was just, that there is something about that attracting people, attracting your tribe. But it is like we talked with the videos last week, putting yourself out there, being your authentic self. and
Right.
people are gonna start contacting you, and then that's fun. Like, wow,
Yeah.
this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly, exactly. Yes,
so, and
that's
then he
what
also
happened.
had, yeah,
No, go ahead.
no, you first.
No, you go first.
And
Just
then he
play.
also had this, the generosity wheel, and generosity leads to reciprocity, leads to profitability, and I think when people hear generosity, they immediately think, I got to give money, I got to give money, and he had a slide that had seven T's to generosity, the seven gifts of generosity all start with a T, and it was thought, talk, talent, treasure, tribe, teach, and time. There's not one mention of money on there. And his first one, thought, and in parentheses it says plus action, and he said, you think of somebody and you send them a card. I'm like, oh my God, and it was funny because I was sitting with everyone at my table turned and looked at me. I'm like, ah, it works.
I
I mean,
told you.
yeah, I'm not
That's what I've been
preaching.
trying to tell you, right?
I'm standing on my soapbox, but you hear it, and it's it. I think it's gaining traction outside of promptings.
Hmm.
The importance of saying what you should say to people, and being generous with your words, and and we all, when we think of, I did a video today, why send cards, and when you have a prompting, you send a card, you're going to be in tune with more promptings,
Hmm.
and they're going to get better, and they're going to lead to your genius.
Right.
So I be generous with the cards. That's something we talk about kindness and gratitude, but maybe we need to start adding that. Be generous when you send cards,
Yeah.
and that's with your words, or what people, how they make you feel, and and how, yeah. All right. Anyway.
And kind of on this line too, and you've heard Cody mention it, and you'll get more on prosperity. Be generous to yourself too.
Yeah.
Send a card to yourself. And here's something really I have to share with you. When, at the prompting seminar, when I knew I was going to do my little 5-10 minute thing, that morning, and I was not nervous about any of it because I knew I was going to be speaking from my heart.
Sure.
But at the same time, I really didn't know exactly what they were looking for. And as it turns out, it was different than what I had planned anyway. So, but my point of the thing was, in the morning, I'm sitting there in bed, or sitting up in bed, and it's like, okay, I literally would scan down through the cards or my images or whatever. I was sending cards to myself. I was sending inspirational cards to myself, and it just said had inspiration message, and the mantras are awesome. So one of those, and then on the back side it says, "I needed this today." And another one I did an I am card, and all it says is, "I am gonna do great." I mean, I did all these things. I must have pumped out 6 cards just to myself. And doing that. And it was really funny when they came in. Now, obviously, it's going to be what, 5-6 days later.
Right.
It comes in. I'm reading these cards and I'm thinking, hey, that's like cool.
Yeah.
I needed that. Yeah, I needed
Yeah. All right.
that.
Sure. It is. I mean, the promptings are not just us acting
For
outward.
else.
Half of it's inward,
Mhm.
with your promptings, and whether that's to be kind with yourself, or, you have a food craving, that means you're probably missing something in your diet that you need that.
Right,
Besides the
right.
chocolate candy 24/7, that's probably not a good prompting to act on, but, so, so yeah, just think when be generous with your words, with the pictures that you share. We had 2 people on the webinar last night, and their cards were. It was so funny because Jackie was very, you know, well written out stuff, and Kathy comes on. She's like, "Mine are pretty simple. I don't write a lot. I think the pictures say more." And I'm like, you're right. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but the eloquence of writing too on how you feel about somebody, can touch people very deeply.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, kudos to you, Sean. You did a great job on those webinars filling in for Callie.
Thanks.
And yeah, and they had to have got it had to be getting funner. I would say the first one, obviously, it was like, okay, what am I
Since I
doing?
didn't hit record till Cody was in his card
Yeah.
story. Ugh.
You know, but I mean, the stories, I love what we're doing with these webinars because everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's just, it's good stuff.
On the first two cards with Jackie with the dead animals, and I'm like, don't joke about that, don't joke about that, don't joke about that. Gosh, Kathy, I'm not going to tell you what I have. No.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is to hear other people and how they incorporate it in their business, because she shared some of that, and just more pictures, less talk. It is interesting to see how people use it, but I think it's all coming from the same place.
yes, it
So,
is. It is, be your authentic self when you're doing them, and treat yourself with the same generosity and prompting as anybody
yeah.
else. There's nothing wrong with that. Remember, there was a day we used to be afraid we were sending cards ourselves. Remember that? It's kind of like, "Oh, are
Yeah.
we cheating if we send a card to ourselves? Are we cheating? Are they
Doggone it, you did well. Thank you,
So
Sean.
it's like now it's like, no, you're not at all. You're helping yourself out. So go for it. So awesome.
Perfect.
All right, buddy.
All
Well,
right.
hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. And
Absolutely.
I share some card stories. Love the
Yeah.
card stories. We all have them, and we all have promptings every day. So be generous, right?
Absolutely. Yep. See
Bye,
ya. Have a good
everybody.
weekend.
See you next weekend. See you,
All
Sean.
right. Bye bye.